Hi everybody, Matt Bernier in the DRF studios for a bit of a change. Taking a look at the Sunday DRFBets race of the day. Happens to be the 8th from beautiful Belmont Park. We're going 1 mile and a 16th on the inner turf course, the Grade 3 Athenia for fillies and mares. Before we dive into the field, I'd encourage you to head on over to DRFBets. Take a look, all sorts of great deals over there, but especially for new sign-up members. All the details are over on bets.drf.com. Head on over there, sign up for a new DRFBets account. Let's take a look at this field. We will take them right in post position order. There are 9 of them going forward, and if you'd like to handicap along, head on over to the Race of the Day page on DRF.com. You can download those free formulator past performances. The number 1 is Rimska, going out for Chad Brown and Arad Ortiz Jr. She has only started once in 2018, came most recently up at Saratoga. I understand she probably needed one off the bench, but to be frank, I was a little bit disappointed she didn't get the job done. She looked like she was getting ready to turn into something serious as a 3-year-old. You saw what she did in that Sweetest Chant down at Gulfstream. That was 4 starts back now. Unfortunately, she's just had sort of a start and stop campaign since then. The talent is there, but I do wonder at what point do the injuries sort of catch up to her. She can obviously win a race like this, and we know what Chad Brown is capable of, but there is a part of me that thinks she's going to get bet in here, and I don't know that I necessarily think she has any sort of an edge on anyone else in this field. The number 2 is Hawksmoor. Now, Hawksmoor is very, very solid. All she does is show up and run her eyeballs out. Sometimes it's good enough, sometimes it's not. You see she is 15 times from 21 times lifetime in the money, 5 of those being victories. Most recently, a decent second in the Noble Damsel. No one was going to defeat Uni that day. She absolutely freaked out. But 2 starts back, she was defeated in the Boston Spa. 3 starts back, she was defeated in the Diana. There is a serious part of me that believes that this filly, or mare at this point, trained by Arnaud Delacour, she's still solid, but I don't think she is what she once was. I think she's lost a little bit on the fastball in 2018. I don't think she's quite the same as she was in 2017. She could feasibly work out a good trip in here. And let's take a look at the Timeform US Pace Projector, because they have her out there on the lead, and that's usually where Hawksmoor does her best running. But again, having said that, I'm just not totally convinced that we're dealing with the same Hawksmoor that we had last year. If last year's version shows up, she can certainly win. If this year's version shows up, I think she's best used underneath. Number 3 is New Money Honey. Basically everything I just echoed, or I said about Hawksmoor, I can echo about New Money Honey. There's a part of me that believes here in 2018 she's not quite the same horse as she was in 2017, and she was very, very good in 2017. She's a Grade 1 winner. She's a multiple graded stakes winner. She's done many good things out on the racetrack. Her most recent run in the Canadian up at Woodbine, I think you can give her the benefit of the doubt, because she was pushing a relatively fast pace when it's all said and done. You take a look, Timeform US had those internal fractions color-coded red, meaning it was probably helping set things up for horses coming from off the pace. She has a nice tactical gear. She's likely to sit just off of Hawksmoor in this race on Sunday afternoon. But having said all that, I still just don't think she's quite as good as she was last year. And you want to couple that with a little bit of a negative formulator fact. These are very rare for Chad Brown, anything negative to find in formulator. And again, you got to kind of tweak it a little bit to find it. But past 2 years, turf second after the layoff, graded stakes races at Belmont Park, 2 for 23, 9 in the money with a 70-cent ROI. New Money Honey, she can certainly win a race like this, very similar to Hawksmoor, but at a short price, not enamored by her. I want to look elsewhere. How about the number 4, Indian Blessing, going out for Ed Walker? This is a filly that has run twice here in the United States. She's earned a couple of 97 Beyer speed figures. Most recently was down at Keeneland in the Grade 1 First Lady. And I think if you want to look at it from a class standpoint, 2 starts back, she runs into Kidora, who works out basically the ideal trip out on the front, or pressing the fractions up at Saratoga. And that was her first start here in the United States. And she didn't have the cleanest of trips. She was a little bit headstrong early on, and I thought all things considered down the lane she was in a little bit tight, but she kicked on nicely. She comes back in that First Lady, and from a class standpoint, she is facing much, much better horses than she's going to face here on Sunday afternoon. The likes of a Raving Beauty and Dona Bruja, and we know Dona Bruja, say what you will, when she's right, she is right there with one of the better fillies and mares that we have here in the United States. A Raving Beauty goes without saying how good she is. But it's also worth noting in that First Lady, this filly was wider than wide throughout, and she kicked on nicely down the lane. Perhaps she is not a Grade 1 level sort of filly, but I think she fits really well in a race like this, and if you think she gets a little bit of pace to run at, I think she's interesting at a decent price. That's number 4, Indian Blessing. The number 5 is Mythical Mission. I've always been a big fan of Mythical Mission. I think she's best suited when she is up north of the border at Woodbine. Unfortunately for her, they come down here. They've tried this a few different times. It really hasn't worked. You look at her from a speed figure standpoint, she just doesn't quite class up, I think, to the best in a spot like this. You're going to get a decent price on nice connections, but at the end of the day, I just don't think she's quite good enough. Another Chad Brown horse, Inflexibility. She goes out here. Johnny Velasquez has the mount here. Ran in that Canadian most recently. Third behind the winner, who was Starship Jubilee, who returned to earn a 97 buyer in her next start, and New Money Honey, who was breaking from a few posts down to her inside. Now, when I look at that race, I say Inflexibility, in theory, had everything go her way. She had that pace in front of her. She got the first run. And not only could she not take advantage of it and win, she couldn't even hang on to second, and New Money Honey was the one that was forced to do the dirty work. To me, no question, of the two, as much as I like Inflexibility, I think New Money Honey is the one that you want to be taking out of that. Now, perhaps you don't want either one of them as far as the Chads are concerned. Maybe you want Rimska, you want the fresh face. But strictly speaking, of the horses coming out of that Canadian, I think it's very clear. I would want New Money Honey as opposed to Inflexibility. But having said that, Inflexibility on her best day, she can certainly win a race like this. Number 7 is Pasta Susi. Goes out for Jorge Abreu. I think Abreu is a very, very talented trainer. You take a look and see that most recent run, that Kentucky Downs Ladies Turf. She ran sort of evenly. I thought she was okay, but again, keep in mind, it's Kentucky Downs. Some horses love it, some horses hate it. I think she tolerated it. I think she's somewhere in the middle there. 2 starts back in the De La Rose. Not going to hold it against her that she couldn't run with Uni. We know Uni on her best day, she's probably a grade 1 caliber miler. And then you get that perfect sting 3 starts back here at Belmont Park. And there's a part of me that thinks perhaps Pasta Susi is not necessarily one of the most likely win contenders in here. But if you're not content with some of the shorter prices, any of Chad's horses, whatever else it may be, maybe a horse like this isn't totally out of the realm of possibility. Paz de Susi could be a decent number for Abreu and Jose Lezcano. The 8 is Candy Store. Candy Store most recently was a winner up at the Spa, defeated Rimska that day. And again, I made mention, I understand Rimska was coming off of a bit of a layoff, but in the grand scheme of things, I kind of felt like she was supposed to get the job done in there. No disrespect to Candy Store. She's a nice little filly. I think she's improving. But boy, in order to be a real threat in a race like this, she's going to take another step forward, or she's going to need to take another step forward to be remotely competitive in a spot like this. She does like to win races, and that's something to many horses you can't say that about. She's 8 of 13 lifetime. She also has some tactical ability. I think she could sit a very solid trip, but at the end of the day, I'm just not totally sold that she's quite this good. And we round out the field with number 9, On Leave for Shug McGahee. Now, On Leave is the kind of horse that, to be frank, I had finally kind of just gotten sick of saying she's not quite up to snuff. She's not quite of the same level as some of the best fillies and mares on the grass. And then Shug put the blinkers on most recently for that one dreamer down at Kentucky Downs, and she got the job done. Now, when you look at On Leave from a figure standpoint, she makes all the sense in the world. She does like to win races, don't get me wrong. It's not as though she can't run, but it just feels like whenever they've tested her against better horses, she just hasn't been able to pass it. There's a part of me that wonders, is this, you got to make a call one way or the other. Did the blinkers get her over the hump, and now all of a sudden this is what she's going to be, where she just needed a little bit more maybe focus? Or did she really love Kentucky Downs, or tolerate it, however you'd like to put it? And getting back to Belmont Park, although she's had plenty of success there, she's won 4 of her 6 lifetime starts, she is facing some pretty salty runners. Is she quite up to par with those? That's up to you. I think the 9 post is going to be interesting. She should be able to work at a decent trip beneath Joelle Rosario. I think she is solid. I think she's one that you absolutely need to consider. But at the same time, don't know that I totally love her as far as a top contender, as far as a win threat is concerned. So who do I actually like here in the Sunday DRFBets race of the day? We're going to take a look. And you know what? I just think Indian Blessing is probably sitting on a pretty solid effort. The pace may not be electric, it might not be blistering up on the front end, but I think there's going to be enough considering the amount of ground that she gave up in that first lady. And I thought she ran just fine in her stateside debut. She's paired up by her tops of 97. I think she moves forward and approaches a 100 buyer in this race on Sunday. And if she does that, she's going to be right there at the wire, regardless of what any of these other girls do, whether it is a Rimska or an Inflexibility or a New Money Honey, any of those types. Give me Indian Blessing at what should be a square price here in the Sunday DRFBets race of the day. 4, 3, 9, and 1 for me in the Grade 3 Athenia. If you decide to play the Grade 3 Athenia, you play anything else from Belmont Park, you play anything anywhere, doesn't matter. Head on over to DRFBets, sign up for a new DRFBets account. All sorts of great deals, especially for those new sign-up members. Head on over to bets.drf.com for all the details. Scheduled post time for the Sunday DRFBets race of the day. The 8th from Belmont Park, the Grade 3 Athenia, 5:18 Eastern. Good luck.